Greetings, family. We back. We're gonna continue where we left off at. Dealing with building a foundation from a physical, spiritual, and a divine perspective, using the scripture, the Quran, as the base, as the foundation. What I wanted to continue to talk about or start or use as an entry point is the physical. Now, keep in mind, this is something, this understanding, if we didn't get this understanding ourselves, most likely we wouldn't have got it. It would have been a while before somebody came along, kind of like pieced it together the way it's pieced together now. It's structured now. We wouldn't have got it. So, in light of that, we're on the move. We got some vital information that we can use towards building our foundation from a physical perspective. Now, I know it's going to be some people we got the pushback group. You know, we got the recalcitrant group who's going to be in denial and, try to steer the conversation, or try to steer things in another direction, or try to weave around some things. But we're not going to worry about that. We're going to keep our focus straight ahead. Here's some things I want y'all to understand about this language. And it's clear and it's easy to learn. Don't think it's not. So don't deny yourself or down yourself or lower your standards of understanding and consciousness because somewhere along the line you feel you can't understand this language because you can't. I never felt that way. I always said, if that's what God is saying to me, I need to find out what he's saying for myself. And I took on that task, and that's exactly what I did. So, where we left off at, we was talking about the physical, the divine, and the physical, spiritual, and the divine, and how those three individual components made up the total composition of us as Black melanated people. So we want to deal with just the bashar. And keep in mind, we're using European tools to come to this conclusion, which is nothing wrong with that. We're using the Handswell Dictionary, which is German. We're using learning the language of the Quran, which is a European. And we're using sometimes Lane's lexicon. So we're using their tools to come to our conclusion on this. It's just like right here, this word here. In 15 and 20, Hamad is used as an adjective to describe, which is descriptive of this bashar, of this human being. It's describing this bashar, this human being, as being dark or black or melanated. In 15 and 20, some Qurans don't even translate this word. I know Yusuf Ali don't translate the word at all. Don't say nothing about it. Which that's understandable. That's the understanding we need to get for ourselves. That goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. We have to educate our own people who use this scripture as an empowering tool. This is what empowers us, not looking through it from the lenses and experiences and history of somebody else. We have to use our own lenses, our own history, and our own experiences to come to this conclusion and an understanding of the scripture, the language that it will reveal in. So, with that being said, we're talking about the creation of a dark or black or melanated man or people. In my Quran anyway, when you start to look at different ayats dealing with when the prophets and messengers spoke truth to power, that's how we see it in our days time. They spoke truth to power. You have Noah, you have Moses and Aaron, you have Abraham, you have Lot, you have Salih, Shuaib. All these messengers and prophets of back in the day confronted their people, those in power, those who were suppressing, doing the suppressing, the oppressing. They confronted those people. And the interesting thing about that, when the power addressed them, it addressed them as it was very descriptive and specific and intentional on the words that were used in the scripture to address those brothers. It addressed them as bashars. So the creation of a bashar, the physical skin, epidermis, the physical aspect of us, is black or dark, or in our days and times, skin is a modernized, updated understanding would be a melanated individual. Black, dark, or we say melanated. When you read these, even the one dealing with Mary, and they say an angel came to her. But he was a bashar. And the conversation goes in line with her talking to somebody she's looking at. It ain't something floating around. She, hey, where you at? Who is that? And now it's somebody that she can see and talk to. You understand? He's a bashar. They say, we sent our ruh in the form or shape, physical form, physical shape of a bashar, black, melaninated individual. They say mortal. When they use this word, they translate it as mortal most of the time. Sometimes you see human being. But we understand who we dealing with. We let the scripture define who we dealing with. So it's a black man, melaninated individual. We understand that. When they're talking about when Moses and Aaron spoke truth to power, went to Pharaoh, same thing. Reject him. It's like, hey, I'm in power. What are you talking about, man? He said, you think I'm finna listen to two Basharains, not Bashar. It's in the dual because you got Aaron and Moses. You got two people that he's addressing, so it's in the dual. Bashar is in the dual form. So you think I'm finna, what make you think I'm finna listen to y'all, man? How y'all going? I'm the one in power. I'm gonna listen to y'all for y'all just like me. You ain't no different than me. Well, I ain't gonna say you ain't no different than me, but I'm gonna listen to somebody just like me. That's what they all say. That's what they all say. When the messengers and prophets come to speak truth to power, that's where they address it. Now, make you think, in other words, what make you think I'm gonna listen to you? You just like me. The only difference is I'm in authority and you ain't. So that's the clarity. One other point I wanted to make is that you got other words for man, or men, or people that could have been used in that place rather than using bashar. You could have used nasty. Sometimes they translate that mean. You could have used raju. Sometimes they translate that man or men. You could have used ins, man. You could have used insane, man. So it was a variety of choices that the divine source, force, and power, we call it law, could have used. But he chose this word here because not only is it dealing with the physicalities of of the individual, but it's also descriptive of his hue, his color, or his melanin. You know what I'm saying? So you can't get around that. That's, you know, that can't be all. You got to argue with description. Number two, and the most important point that I'm gonna make, and we tie this in with creation. When we start to get a better grasp and understanding of this, then it gets us closer and closer back to creation. And it takes us further back into history to where we begin to understand those people back then and their connection and relationship to nature. This divine soul in 15 and 28 is what was placed in this bashar. And 32 and 9 says, as a result, you were given, they translate as hearing, seeing, and feelings. See, this is an understanding we're not supposed to have also. We're not supposed to come to this conclusion when it comes to a divine soul, because they use this word and nafs, they use them interchangeably. But you can't use them interchangeably because one is divine and the other one is representative of the human soul, or human psyche, or mind, whatever you want to call it. And this is divine. This don't influence that. That influences that. You know, so when we get to start to understand this divine soul as it relates to the bashar, or the black and melanated man, black and melanated people, it begins to expand or broaden our understanding in our mind. And then, you know, it takes us back to creation, because this is the highest form. This is the divine form of consciousness. This is the highest form. You know, a divine receptivity, divine vision, to be able to imagine and create in your mind images. You know what I'm saying? That's of the highest form. To be able to divinely feel, have those divine feelings of compassion, love, you know, for first and foremost creation. And that includes ourselves, one another. You know, this is what, to me, the earliest of our ancestors were functioning from. They were functioning from the highest form of their being, which was divine, their divine nature. And understanding in this scripture, when you start applying science, the different sciences to this scripture, then you step outside the realm of religion. Then now we have to reach and pull from our illustrious scholars and different forms of science that our brothers and sisters dedicated their whole lives and experiences towards, and keeping our books and our records straight and on point. So when you get this understanding, then you will understand the scripture when it deals with the fitra of Allah, the nature that he placed or created or patterned humanity after. So I said that to say this. Creation has a divine nature within itself. That's the engine. That's what gives creation its purpose. That's what gives the animal kingdom their purpose. It's their divine nature. It's what gives the bee its purpose. It's what gives everything in creation its purpose. And that is divine. So creation is divine by nature. We have a divine aspect to our being, which is our soul. And our soul gives us the ability to connect and relate and have a relationship with the divineness in creation. That's why our ancestors were able to extract from creation what they did in the form of not just sustenance to be able to, sustain themselves, but it gave birth, that connection, that relationship gave birth to the different sciences that our ancestors created, like the Dogon tribe, astronomy, astrology, oceanography, embryology, biology, uh, biogenetics, however they call it. I'm just naming some stuff, but it was our relationship and connection with the divineness in creation was a connection with the divineness in us. And that was the communication. That was the language. That's how we became the first scientists of all the sciences. That's why we was able to build advanced civilizations at that time. It was the divine connection within us that connected to the divineness, divine nature in creation. Once we begin to understand, it's like our brothers and sisters who study chemical, melanin says, it's like Brother Africa, Ancestor Africa, Layla Africa says that the only thing worth studying is melanin. That's it. That's the only thing worth studying. And I kind of understand why he's saying that, because melanin, based on our scientists who've put the work in, is a chemical that's in everything in creation, from the cosmos to the earth, to the oceans and everything in between. Has some form of melanin in it, including us. That's why we have a natural, a normal amount of it. That's why we were able to back then connect with the divineness in creation, based on the divineness in us. So it's like, as we begin to look at this through our own lenses, through our history, not his story, but our story, we begin to see and realize that one of the ways of finding out about groups of people, what groups of people are about, is through their historical science, through their interpretation and understanding of science. And you get your science, you extract your science based on your connection and your relationship to creation. If there's no divine connection or relationship, then most likely your science is not going to line up with creation, the divine's in creation. I said that to say itself. We were the first scientists. We were the first group of people to study creation. That's all science is the study of something. We were the first ones to study creation. And we had based on our studies, our science was pure and genuine based on our divineness and the divine's nature of creation. That connection gave us the holistic approach and understanding And that's how we develop the different sciences that our ancestors developed back then. Okay, that's our history. We can go far back as we want to go and walk ourselves all the way up until we were bumped out of power. But before we was bumped out of power, nature, that connection and relationship was still intact. Now here comes the other group of people who has to develop somewhat of a science, their sciences, based on their studies of creation and the nature of creation. But the problem is that there's no divine connection or no divine relationship between them and creation. And as a result, those people are still in power today. And look at the condition of the cosmos, look at the condition of the earth, look at the condition of the ocean and everything in between, including people. Look at the condition other people are in other than themselves. What that shows us is that there's no connection from them and the divineness in creation. Because if it was, at the end of the day, it'll show in your use of creation or your misuse of creation. So that's really something really to think about. It ain't something that, that's far-fetched or you're pointing the finger here and there. You're just making a comparison between two historically groups of people and their relationship to creation and the divineness in creation. And if there's a connection between them and creation, and it's going to show based on how they extract the different sciences out of creation and how they use creation or utilize creation for their benefit. Both groups. That's a fair assessment. Look at one group who was in power and authority first, maintenance and control of creation and their relationship and how they use creation. And the position they left creation in. And then the other group take the same approach with the other group. And they're still in power today. And look at the contrast between the two. In bad shape. Creation is in bad shape, for real. And it's getting worse. So, it's a lot when you begin to understand this, when you begin to understand the divine, and I didn't touch on the spiritual yet, but I had to make this connection first. Because without this, there's no divine connection and relationship. Without this, there's no divine connection and relationship with creation and the divineness within creation, because we don't have that in us to make the connection and establish the relationship. So that's the importance behind this. And we're going to focus on this a lot, because this, to me, equates to melanin. Melanin is divine within itself. You can't destroy this neither. It's the master. I think the brother said molecule, master cell. It gives instructions to everything else. You go help the foot, you go help the toes over here, you go to the heart, you go there, you go there. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what the soul do. It's a divine way of seeing, hearing, and feeling things. It's a divine way. It's a divine approach. So, hey, when I first started dealing with this, man, you just don't know how good that made me feel to be able to get this, extract this understanding from the scripture. And understand that the scripture is talking about me when it says, we chose the children of Adam. We honored the children of Adam above everything and everybody else. I know the scripture was talking to me and being more specific when I started getting this understanding. Hey man, it's a self-esteem building, self-worth. Your values change. The way you see and understand yourself gonna change. And your level of conscious awareness is gonna heighten. But you just have to sustain that energy. And hopefully that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna sustain this energy and we're gonna elevate this energy of consciousness that we got as we further delve into this understanding, knowledge yourself. So with that, I'm gonna close. And as always, peace and love to my brothers and sisters, and I see you brothers on the other side.